I wasn't going to go to church that day. I was going to stay home. Till I got up early the next morning, which was Sunday, December 9, 2007. And I was reading my Bible, and I decided to take a break, and I went and looked on the internet, and I had just noticed, just by chance, I noticed a real small sentence in the upper right-hand corner of my computer that said there was a shooting at this Christian facility that I was unfamiliar with in Arvada, Colorado. And even though it was 70 miles or so north of where we were in Colorado Springs, I just got instant chills, and I just knew he was going to come to New Life Church.
That's Jeannne Assam. She's a former police officer who shot and killed gunman Matthew Murray at New Life Church in Colorado Springs back in 2007. As you heard from the video, Murray had already shot 4 people in Arvada, Colorado, killing 2 of them and wounding the other 2. Jeannne Assam joins us here today on Newsmax Now via telephone. Jeannne, we thank you very much for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Jeannne, let's go back to that fateful day in 2007. Can you tell us about the moments leading up to your encounter?
The hallway where he entered, the east hallway, is a very large hallway. It's about 100 yards long, over that, actually, and then about 30 feet wide. And the gunman was shooting through the doors with his AR-15, and there were, like, just hundreds of people, parents picking up children, and, you know, everybody leaves out that east door. Most people do. So the gunman's shooting inside, and everybody was screaming and shouting and saying, "Get down, he's got a gun." And I couldn't see because I was at the very opposite end of where he was, and there was all those people. And I said, "Where is he?" Because it sounded like he was already inside the church. That's how loud the shots were. And one of my partners on the security team says, "He's coming in the doors right now." So I just sprinted down the hall toward him, and everybody was running the opposite way of me. They were running away from him. And then all of a sudden, everybody had miraculously found a place to hide. I mean, it was just, all of a sudden, the hallway was empty, and it was just me and the gunman. And I took cover in this hallway that was perpendicular to the one he was coming down as he was shooting. He was just shooting toward the information desk where there was elderly volunteers hiding. And I prayed and just said, "God, please just be with me." Then I stepped out and said, "Police officer, drop your weapon." And he turned with his AR-15, pointed at me, so I shot the first 5 of 10 times very rapidly, knocking him completely on his back. And then he sat up, and I said, "Drop your weapon or I will kill you." And I was walking toward him with my gun on him. And he sits up, so we're now shooting at each other at an even closer range. And then I had to, if he would have given up and stopped shooting, I would have stopped, but he didn't. So I had to put 3 more rounds in him and killed him.
Jeannne, your experience not really covered by the dominant media culture in the wake of Charleston, and a lot of people shy away from the question of the tragedy in Charleston. Had that might that have been prevented by someone who had a firearm, who was there at the Bible study the other night? In your mind, is it even, can we even make this type of comparison with the events last week in Charleston?
Well, the key is, there were other people on my security team that were armed, and they weren't police officers, so they didn't know what to do, and I don't blame them. I think if a trained police officer, a trained law enforcement professional with a gun had been there, they would have prevented it.
So the takeaway from this, hearing you, Jeannne, is that really churches in this modern era need to have people who have training and a law enforcement background at their services. It's a sad statement on where we are, but obviously, Jeannne, you lived this and you recounted this story. You talked about praying, you talked about your law enforcement training, and you talked about willingness to be compassionate to your assailant, but he refused to drop the weapon. Jeannne Assam is the author of a book you'll want to check out. It's called God, the Gunman and Me, and we thank Jeannne for her time here on Newsmax Now. We're coming back with more.